Episode number 2 of Brennan and Bryan Talk Draft, NFL Draft, and this time we're going to do a live mock draft. Now, Bryan, you and I have done a split pick mock draft before. Do you remember?
I actually don't remember that.
We did it for the Farm Club way back when. Do you remember?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Wow.
So it's been a minute, and we didn't do it live. I think we literally. How did we do it? Because back then we weren't using Google Docs. We may have emailed pick by pick. I think that may have been how we did it.
Yeah, that's probably accurate.
Or Facebook.
I'm still waiting for my royalties from that, by the way.
How about? Do you remember? The website doesn't exist, so good luck. Do you remember? We stumbled across this at one point. I want to say it was the 2013 draft. We're in a Facebook group together, and you were running a mock of this style where everybody everyone had a pick or had a team, and we went 2.5 rounds deep on a Facebook group making picks, and we had people making picks. This is how the NFL draft goes. We had people making picks who despise college football.
I do remember that now that you. Wow.
It came up on
I was such a loser
Facebook
back
memory
then.
for me at one point, and I was very disappointed that we don't do that anymore.
Yeah.
We went 2.5 rounds deep. We're only doing one round today, but let's kick it off. I'm going to be doing the odd numbers. Bryan's going to be doing the even numbers. I think he did that so that I could have the easier time. I honestly think that's what he did, because I get to start with the Bengals and
No,
Lions.
I wanted to give you the Lions.
Okay, fair enough. Well, number one, you probably already got it written down. Joe Burrow. I feel confident that this one's going to be locked in.
Yeah.
There are reports that they've been spending all of their 3 weekly hours with Joe Burrow. Each team gets 3 hours per week with prospects via FaceTime chats, and supposedly the Bengals just want to really know Joe Burrow.
Do the Bengals know they have a second round pick?
I know, Bryan. They have more than that, and a third, and a fourth, and I don't know if you've ever face chatted with somebody for 3 hours, but that's a long time.
That's a long time.
You know he's sick of it.
He'd have to be. Can you imagine who's their head coach? I don't even know.
Oh, they hired. Oh.
I just know it's not Marvin Lewis.
No, I feel like his name starts with Ryan. Give me a second. I'm gonna recognize it as soon as I see it. Zach Taylor.
Oh yeah, that's right.
One of the many. This guy had a conversation with McVay at one point in his life.
Okay, got it.
But yeah.
Well, I hope he's interesting for Burrow's sake.
But yeah, number one is easy. So moving on. We're not gonna do trades, by the way. We didn't discuss this. I just feel like that was common sense. Bryan, who you got the Redskins taking it to?
Well, it's not their biggest need, but they suck, and they need the best player available. This hurts me as a Lions fan, but I think Chase Young is the pick here.
I think it's personally the real pick as well.
Yeah. And it's, to note, Ryan Kerrigan, who is, all-pro, 4-time Pro Bowler, defensive end, he will be a free agent next year. So they did draft Montez Sweat last year in the first round. But it does somewhat make sense. It's not like they're just, it's not like you're the Lions and you have Charles Rogers and Roy Williams and you draft Mike Williams.
I almost wanted to have a pre-negotiated trade, just one trade that has the Dolphins or Chargers come up to take Tua, because we know one of them's going to do it. So we're just starting this draft from a place of no chance of being accurate. That being said, I do think this is who the Lions will end up taking. And we'll do this in our next podcast, which I believe should come out next Tuesday. We'll specifically focus on the Lions draft. But this is who I believe they ultimately will end up taking. Jeff Okudah, obviously the cornerback out of Ohio State. I'm torn because I think Okudah is going to be a shutdown corner in the NFL.
Yeah.
I think it's underwhelming right now because you just traded out Darius Slay. So no matter what you do, you're going to be worse at corner this year than you were last year. At least at number one corner. So it's a little frustrating, especially if they only get him at 3.
If they get him at 3, and like you said, we'll talk about it later, but I would be thoroughly underwhelmed.
The only player that I would have been really excited to get at 3 outside of Chase Young, I was a big fan of Isaiah Simmons, but that appears not to be in play Understandably
Right.
so with the moves they've made. So Jeff Okuda is
Right.
kind of the no-brainer here at 3.
We got Jared Davis. Come on. You're not happy with him?
Yeah, I love Jelani Tavai too.
Oh God, we're screwed. All right. Number 4, your New York Giants. And I only say that because Brendan was a Giants fan.
Yeah, for
at
context,
one
I've
point in
shared
his
it before. I was a diehard Giants fan for actually a long time. It's kind of gone away, I say, over the last 5 or 6 years. As Eli stopped being any good, I stopped really caring about the Giants because that's where my love came from. But yes, I was
So
a
like
big Giants
10
fan.
years ago.
No, it's like 5 or 6. He was. They won a
Okay.
championship when we were in college, Brian.
Yeah, whatever. Thanks to Tyree. So Giants, I think their biggest need is offensive tackle. I don't think that's any doubt. But this is what I think Dave Gettleman will do. And word on the street is that they're in love with Isaiah Simmons. So I'm going to pick Isaiah Simmons here.
Okay, so Isaiah Simmons. What I find most interesting about him, like I do love the mock draft season. This is a dude I've seen anywhere from like 4 to 15 on not even just mocks, but big boards. I've seen him quite. 15 might be a little extreme, but like I've seen him outside of 10
That's interesting.
on some big boards. I told you
See,
I'm a big Simmons guy, but I've seen places where he could fall.
I am too. I feel like he's the biggest linebacking prospect since who is the guy who went number 2 after Stafford? He went to Wake Forest. Aaron Curry. Yes,
I was an Aaron Curry guy too.
I was too.
I mean, context. I think I was in 9th grade, so I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. Not to say I do now, but I certainly know better than I did then.
Right. No, I remember having conversations with my dad like, you don't understand. We have to take Curry first. All right, a quarterback is just not going to win us anything.
And
So-
we weren't technically wrong yet. But I
Yeah.
don't think Aaron Curry was going to win us anything either.
How long did Aaron Curry last?
Oh, 5 years maybe. I don't know if he signed a second
Yeah.
contract. Which
I don't think he did.
which for a number 2 overall pick is incredible.
Yeah, it's impressive.
Number 5, I don't think that this is really up for debate. Again, you made it easy on me. Joe Burrow, Jeff Okuda, and for the Dolphins, I
Yep.
still don't really know how to say his name. Tega Vailoa.
Something like that.
If he's
Now-
there at 5, this is such a no-brainer.
Agreed. Now, do you think there's any chance? I know you're a big Justin Herbert guy. Any chance that Herbert goes
You said
here?
that with such a straight face. It was almost believable you thought it. Yes, I do think it's possible he goes here. The
Yeah, me
Dolphins
too.
drafted a wide receiver at quarterback a few years ago, if you recall. So I would not put it past them to take the next Mitch Trubisky. I'm going to stick with Tua. I think that the high end of Tua is just too high for the Dolphins to give up on or to pass on him. I also think that whether or not they do redshirt him, this is literally the perfect team to redshirt him because they embrace the tank so strongly. A lot of teams will not go that route, and so they're going to play their rookie quarterback if they take him in the top 5. He just fits so well because they have a good excuse not to play him year 1. Just going to do this throughout so we can keep track. Top 5 right now, Bengals, Joe Burrow. Redskins take Chase Young. The Lions get Jeff Okuda. The Giants take Isaiah Simmons. And the Dolphins take Tua. That leaves the Chargers on the board at 6.
Yeah, and going off of most drafts that we've seen, they have the top 5 pretty much laid out for the most part. And this draft, if there was to be one surprise, which there usually is every year, I would say it's Herbert jumping over Tua. Whether the Chargers or Dolphins trade up, I think there's just more and more steam behind that. So just something to look out for. But with the Chargers here, you are the formerly known as the San Diego Chargers. No one cares about you. Your starting quarterback is Tyrod Taylor. You got to get fans in the seats. So I'm going to go with Justin Herbert here.
I low-key don't think they would. I do think the Chargers are going to find a quarterback early on. I kind of find myself. I think we talked about it in the last episode. We kind of disagree. You are on the. A lot of quarterbacks are going in this first round. I kind of think you'll. I'm gonna guess 3. Somebody will take the Herbert bait. I think Love falls into the second round. That's somewhere I could see the Chargers going in the second round. They've said they're adamant about starting with Tyrod Taylor. I don't necessarily buy that entirely, but I do think it's plausible that Tyrod Taylor is the day 1 starter with a second round pick taking over later on in the year. Because they need to get people in seats. And Justin Herbert is a name and he's a rookie quarterback, but I just think their problem's deeper than that. Rookie quarterbacks are how you excite fan bases that already exist. Winning is how you create fan bases that don't exist yet.
It's a good point, for sure. Now, where if you let's say you had this pick, you were the Chargers, who would you pick up?
I think the way I would have been leaning probably would have been Jedrick. Is it Jedrick Willis the top? Yeah, offensive tackle out of Bama.
Yeah.
Especially if the plan is to go quarterback later in the draft, which I suspect it is.
Sure.
I also have them needing a linebacker. Don't really have. This is an interesting draft. There's really once Isaiah Simmons and Chase Young are off the board, you're not really going to get a lot of pass rush, at least not on the outside, anytime soon. That'd be another need for them. So yeah, I think I probably would have gone Jedrick Willis, but Justin Herbert, certainly in play. I'm trying to keep track of this. I wrote down HHH. Apparently, I've got them drafting Triple H at the WWE. The Panthers up next. I don't think they really need anything on offense outside of maybe an offensive lineman. Could consider a Jedrick Willis there. I think most big boards actually have this guy lower, but I think he's the better pass rusher from the inside, and I think that's something that the Panthers have valued. I'm going to take Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle out of South Carolina.
Oh.
And that does put him
that's interesting.
above. I've seen it flipped in some places, but I think Derek Brown is the higher-ranked defensive tackle prospect by most people.
Yeah. But Javon Kinlaw, I mean, I don't think that the space between them is that far. I mean, Javon Kinlaw's he's a beast. So I could definitely see that happening.
He's definitely the more finished pass rusher. Derek Brown, I'll tell you, I enjoy watching, I actually watch film reviews of a lot of these guys. I think it's fun to watch people who know what they're talking about show you what they do well.
Sure.
And Derek Brown, he's the guy who disrupts the passing game, but maybe doesn't get the sacks because he just blows dudes off the line of scrimmage.
Right.
Javon Kinlaw can finish it.
Yeah. No, that's a great point. Just trying to pull up Derek Brown's stats for this year. That's interesting. The sites that I have give interceptions, but he's a defensive tackle, so
you're trying to find Kinlaw?
No, Derek Brown. I was trying to find his sacks for the year. I think he only had numbers weren't great, but he is. I mean, he's disruptive. I think you can take your pick of either one.
And this is where
this
can be tough sometimes doing this. Off the top of my head, I believe the Panthers run a 4-3, but it's going to be a new defense this year, so I don't actually know if that's going to change. From what I've seen, I think
4 sacks for Derek Brown.
4 sacks. I mean, he does blow guys off the line of scrimmage. He's definitely going to disrupt things. He just relies a little bit too much on just bulldozing dudes. And I kind of think personally in a 4-3, although I think both project as 4-3 defensive tackles, I prefer the guy with a little bit more versatility in getting to the quarterback.
Sure.
Moving on, number 8, you got the Cardinals.
Yeah, Arizona Cardinals. I really don't know how much Cliff Kingsbury values defense. His defenses at Texas Tech were literally like bottom of the league every single year. He's kind of a wild card. You know that. I mean that offense is going to be stacked. The receivers they have.
That's the thing.
It's going to be really interesting.
I'm assuming you're going offensive line. I can't imagine they'd even consider a wide receiver or running back.
The value of Derek Brown here is enticing, but Kyler Murray was sacked, I think, more than any other quarterback last year. So I think that they need to invest in the offensive line. So now, who is it? Do you take a guy more of a traditional left tackle like Jedrick Willis? Do you take a guy based off of potential like Mekhi Becton? Um, but I think that they're going to go, or another possibility is Tristan Wirfs, who's the most athletic left tackle out there. With the way that Kingsbury runs his offense, my gut tells me that Tristan Wirfs is the pick here.
Okay, it is really three top offensive linemen kind of in the same ballpark. I think they could probably go in any
Yeah,
order.
for sure. And I think that Jedrick Willis. Um, I think the enticing thing about him is, he played in the SEC, Alabama left tackle, but Tristan Wirfs really just blew the house away at the combine. So I think Cliff Kingsbury is going to like the athleticism of Wirfs over
So
Willis.
this this is kind of funny because when you mentioned Derek Brown, you scared me a little bit because I didn't really know where else to go with the Jaguars than Derek Brown. They have lost so much defensive talent, and the problem is, I mean, a lot of it's in secondary, but there's not an option there. Again, I
Yeah,
mentioned there's not a whole lot of edge pass rushers at the top of this draft. And you know what's so funny about this? Derek Brown, the Auburn defensive tackle, the best prospect left on the board, falls to 9. Kind of reminds me of a former Auburn defensive tackle taken by the Detroit Lions and Nick Fairley.
stop
I'm
it.
not saying he's the same player or anything, but it's a very similar storyline. I mean, I think he's consensus best player on the board at this point, right?
For sure. I think
And
so.
the Jaguars have been, despite all the defensive talent they've lost this year, have been pretty consistent in drafting high-end defensive talent. Um,
Yeah.
if you would have
Yeah,
taken
they
him at
got
8, I don't know another direction I would have gone. But he almost feels like a no-brainer now that he's there at 9.
Yeah, I think that's interesting. So, just to play devil's advocate, if Brown was gone here, I think you could look to a corner like Felton out of LSU. They could probably use another offensive lineman, so I could see Wills going here or Becton. But yeah, I agree. If Brown's here, I think it's a no-brainer for him.
I don't think, though, so I don't. They have been very defensive draft heavy early in the draft.
Yeah,
Offensive line, I guess,
yeah.
is in play. Um, Typically, if you're drafting a corner in the top 10, there's supposed to be some pretty special dudes. And I don't know that there is another corner in this draft that I look at as a top 10 kind of guy.
I really like Felton, but I people aren't as high on him as I am.
CJ Henderson, another guy
But I
who you
agree.
do
I
see
mean,
a little bit there.
top 10, or CJ Henderson is the other guy. That's right. Um, yeah, and I could see CJ Henderson as well. He's a big corner, six. I could potentially see him here, but if you're asking, Henderson or Derek Brown, I would take Derek Brown.
All right, so that moves us on to 10 and the Cleveland
Fun
Browns.
fact, though. Yeah, and real quick, fun fact: the Jaguars last year started their corners with Jalen Ramsey and AJ Bouye. This year, they're starting corners the Dark Melvin.
Oof.
So, all right.
And it's funny because we should know, being Lions fans and whether or not you're a Michigan State fan, and you're obviously familiar with Darqueze Dennard, you should be familiar with the two. I don't think
Yeah.
I'd want either of them to be. I don't know. Maybe I'm okay with Dennard as my second corner, but okay is like the strongest word I would use.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I wasn't impressed with Melvin either. No.
No, I definitely wouldn't want him to be my second. So bringing that up, I think Henderson's in play, especially if Derek Brown did go 8. But on the board, I think Derek Brown was just very clearly the best player left. Moving on, number
Yeah.
10, Cleveland Browns.
Cleveland Browns, they got Jack Conklin to start on the right side. That was a big move. Linebackers in need here. They've got some defensive linemen that are coming up. Their contracts are running out. Olivier Bernier, Larry Ogunjobi. I don't know if I said that right. But they do need a left tackle. Baker Mayfield needs that protection. I am going to go with Jedrick Wills here.
So they're supposedly shopping Odell Beckham, right? Is there any consideration to wide receiver? This is an
I think so
organization that
because
has always loved the flash.
yeah,
I thought, and I don't mean Josh Gordon. I was a little nervous here because I think the next few picks, I think you could argue we're about to see a run on wide receivers. But if Odell Beckham does go,
yes,
I think wide receiver is in play for an organization, like I said, that has loved the flashy pick. And this is regarded as by many one of the best draft classes we've ever seen at wide receiver. They do have
yeah.
Jarvis Landry too,
Matt
so I guess
Millen.
there's not really a need. Yeah, Matt Millen would love this draft.
Matt Millen's just
I don't think there's necessarily a need at wide receiver, but I could just offensive tackle is so unsexy.
yeah, it is, but like because of this draft is so deep, I think you can get a first round caliber receiver with the Browns' second round pick.
Moving on, speaking of wide receiver, the reason I brought it up because there's no doubt I'm going wide receiver here. I I I'm so torn on who I prefer in this one. I was a big CD Lamb guy just like through watching myself and my own eye test. Um, Man, I don't know. Jerry Judy is considered safer by most. I think the Jets go with the safer wide receiver in Jerry Judy. I don't know that I really even considered another direction. If you had taken one of the two, I'd have taken the other here at 11 for the Jets.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it's a toss up between Judy and CD Lamb. I think CD Lamb's going to be the better player personally. But I think sitting in the Jets position, I think Jerry Judy's the pick here too.
Moving on, the Raiders at 12, who will have another pick coming up later in this mock draft as well. What are you thinking?
They need a corner. They could use some defensive line help. But wide receiver, I think, is their biggest need. Real quick, name 3 Raiders receivers. I can name one.
Oh
And
man.
that's only because I have. See, I can't even remember his name.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about. There was one fantasy relevant
What's
wide
his
receiver.
name?
What the hell's his name?
He was on
He was
Clemson
not.
for like 12 years.
I wasn't even thinking of him. I know who you're talking. This is embarrassing.
Oh my gosh,
Uh,
this is bad.
he had that
I
really.
call myself a
He
semi-expert
had the
here.
really good championship game, right? Hunter Renfro.
Yes, Hunter
Tyrell
Renfro.
Williams is who came
Love
to
that
my
guy.
mind.
Oh yeah, that was
Did
the other
they
guy. Yeah,
sign
right.
Nelson Aguilar?
They did.
I had
Oh, that's
forgotten
right.
that. I'm a
There's
big
3.
Nelson
You
Aguilar
got it.
fan. That was Google. Um,
You're the only Nelson Aguilar fan then. Um, with that being said, I think this is an interesting pick for the Raiders here. I do think that they go receiver, but then it goes down to do you take the possession, clear upside guy and CD Lamb, or do you go with pure speed and Henry Ruggs? Um, if I'm the Raiders here, I'm trying to get into the mind of John Gruden. The typical Raiders pick would be, okay, Henry Ruggs, boom. He's the fastest player by far in the draft. But I'm going to go off gut feeling again. I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb.
CeeDee Lamb does feel like a Raiders guy too, though. Maybe he doesn't
It
feel like a
does,
Raiders guy
yeah.
to the extent of Ruggs. I think I'm with you. Lamb is my favorite wide receiver prospect. So when I told you I have watched some film review on these guys, it was highlighted how incredible of a route runner Jerry Judy is, and that's something that I think
Yeah.
talk about on sexy. It's hard to really respect what that means. But what it means is that Jerry Judy's probably the most likely to be immediate impact, ready to go, and can get himself
Sure.
open in the NFL. But CeeDee Lamb, he's just so good after the catch, and those guys have become more valuable now in the league than I can ever remember.
Yeah.
And also, I kind of, after making fun of them a lot, think the Raiders have started to move in the right direction. I like the pick. Now,
Yeah.
The 49ers are interesting because they don't have a pick. And you know what? Let's reset this again from the top of the draft. The Bengals, Joe Burrow. Redskins took Chase Young. Lions take Jeff Okuda. Giants take Isaiah Simmons. The Dolphins took Tua. No surprises there. Chargers, Justin Herbert. Panthers took Javon Kinlaw, the defensive tackle. Cardinals, Tristan Wirfs. Jaguars took Derek Brown. The Browns took Jedrick Willis. Now we started a run on wide receivers 11 and 12. Jerry Jeudy to the Jets, CeeDee Lamb to the Raiders. And the 49ers definitely have a need at wide receiver. And they have no picks in the second, third, or fourth. So at some point they're going to need to find a wide receiver. However, they do have 2 picks in the first round. So I think they wait on wide receiver. And I do think they're almost definitely going to go wide receiver with the next pick. I'm debating in the direction to go here. They lost to Forrest Buckner. Replacing him would be big. I think what I'm going to do is take the last of the 3 almost interchangeable offensive linemen. Becton has not been drafted, correct? I just went through it myself.
Right. Yep.
And he is the last of the 3, I think, who we've discussed kind of as the top 3. Is it Mekhi Becton? Out of Louisville, 6'7", 364. Joe Staley's in year 15, I believe, this year. And,
from Central Michigan.
Yeah. I remember him being drafted. That is makes me feel old.
Right? I don't know.
But I do think they'll address wide receiver, but they aren't going to be able to add depth later on in this draft. So addressing a need with one of the top players left on the board, while there's so much depth at wide receiver, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I love that pick. And I think if the draft plays out in this scenario, I think you see the 49ers trade down here because some offensive tackle needy team, I feel like, jump over the Buccaneers here. Maybe the Miami Dolphins. Trying to think, maybe even maybe the Jaguars. But I feel like one of those teams is going to try to jump over the Bucs because I think the Bucs have a huge need at left tackle, and Mekhi Becton's still there. 49ers are a prime candidate to trade down.
You have to take into consideration when making these picks the competence level of the organizations. And the 49ers, the reason I didn't want to go wide receiver is because I think they're a competent organization who understands that even if they want to add a wide receiver, they can do it with their second pick in the first round.
Sure, absolutely.
Moving on, you mentioned those Buccaneers, those Tom Brady-led Buccaneers.
That's right.
At 14, what direction are they going to go?
This is interesting. I think that they really need a left tackle here. I think it's almost absolutely going to be offense. Tom Brady's going to need some help. He's not the same player he was. They've got a ton of wide receiving help. They still need a running back. I think it's a little early to take a running back here. So with that being said, I think I'm going to go with Andrew Thomas here, who is the left tackle out of Georgia.
The 4th offensive lineman to go in the first 14 picks. And actually, I was going to say very heavily offense, but that's not completely true. It has been the last few picks, though. Jerry Jeudy to the Jets, CeeDee Lamb to the Raiders, Mekhi Becton to the 49ers, and Andrew Thomas to the Buccaneers. I was considering Andrew Thomas at 15 as well for the Broncos. And this is where it starts to get a lot tougher because I'm a lot less aware of needs as we get deeper, but also a little less confident on prospects as we get deeper.
Sure.
Everyone knows that feeling of getting frustrated when the guy before you takes your fantasy player. You don't understand the frustration when the guy takes your mock draft player. The Broncos do have a needed offensive lineman. I'm not going to drop to the next one. You know what? They have a need at corner, and a guy we mentioned a few picks ago who hasn't come back up yet. I do think wide receivers in play here too, by the way, but I think some teams, again, competence of the organization. I think the Broncos have done a pretty good job outside of quarterback. And I don't hate Drew Lock. They just ignored the position for so many years.
No.
I think a wide receiver is in play, but C.J. Henderson's a guy who's now fallen a little bit. Definitely among the top of pretty much everybody's big board in best remaining. I'm going to take that cornerback, C.J. Henderson out of Florida.
Dang it.
Did you want him for the
Now
Falcons?
I'm feeling that. I wanted him for the Falcons.
Yeah. If he was there at 16, I think it was probably a no-brainer. Talk about a team that could look to move.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, for sure. All right. So who's in play here? I mean, I think Fulton could be picked here, the LSU corner.
Can start looking at some linebackers now, which I don't think we're in discussion earlier. Patrick Queen out of LSU.
True.
Bryan, I have no idea how to say this other linebacker out of LSU's name. Kalavon.
Kalavon Chasen. Yeah, he's more of an edge rusher. I'm not sure if the Falcons are doing. Plus, they signed what's this? They signed Dante Fowler to free agency. As Lions fans, we know they lost Trufant, so corner's still a big need here. Boy, this is good. Okay, so I'm thinking either linebacker would be huge. You could do Kenneth Murray from Oklahoma, Patrick Queen you mentioned. I think I'm going to go with Christian Fulton, a corner from LSU. I really like Fulton.
Yeah, that's very obvious. You brought his name up like 10 picks ago.
I'm a little more on Fulton than I think most people, but that's just me.
Right. So now all of a sudden a run on corners with the last 2 picks. I'm not going to reset the whole thing. The top of the draft went as expected. Last few picks, 49ers, Mekhi Becton, Buccaneers, Andrew Thomas. A couple offensive linemen, followed by a couple corners, Broncos, C.J. Henderson, Falcons, Christian Fulton. Cowboys at 17. Probably biggest needs on the edge and at corner. I don't know. The Cowboys kind of feel like a team to some extent that's set up to go best available. I don't know. I mean, I think even a wide receiver is in play. And for a team, that's great. For me, that makes it a little bit more complicated. I don't know that there's a clear-cut best available left on the board. I'm looking at the big board I have in front of me, and there's just nobody who stands out. You help me out here, Bryan. Can Kalavon Chasen rush as an end? Because I think with the Cowboys, that's the way he'd have to do it.
Yeah, he's a little undersized for that. I think he could do it. He's 6'3", 250. I think he definitely.
AJ, God, I should have been more prepared for some of these names. Epinesa, the edge rusher out of Iowa, make more sense.
Iowa. I could see that he's definitely more of a traditional.
Much bigger.
Yeah.
You know what? Let's go route.
He is. AJ Epinesa is Trey Flowers essentially. So if you think of it like that, not a traditional edge rusher, but definitely more set run stuffer.
Problem. There really isn't a traditional edge rusher unless you start reaching.
You could go Yetur Gross-Matos. I don't know if I said that right, but the edge from Penn State, 6'5", 270, a little bit bigger.
That's where I'm struggling because, again, I don't think the Cowboys are forced into anything.
Agreed.
The top corners have come off the board. There's not really an offensive lineman worth chasing. Maybe Josh Jones out of Houston.
You could go Trayvon Diggs, the corner from Bama. It'd be a little bit of a reach, but everyone has their different boards. So
I think I'm going to go AJ Epinesa, the edge rusher out of Iowa, put on the opposite side of DeMarcus Lawrence. They have some freedom. This pick is kind of could be anywhere.
Yeah, and as a Lions fan, I am hoping with everything inside of me that AJ Epinesa falls to the second round. I think he is perfect for what Matt Patricia's attempting to do with the defense. So that one hurts a little bit, but all right, that's cool.
All right, moving on. 18 pick for the Dolphins. They've already picked Tua. It's their second pick in this mock.
Yeah, the Dolphins need a little bit of everything here. So they could go offensive lineman. They definitely need that. They traded away drawing a blank. I'm headed to Houston. Anyways, it'll come to me. They need a running back. They need a safety. They need an edge rusher. So I think really with Miami, you just take the best player available here. I don't know if they like Josh Jones, the left tackle from Houston. A little bit more raw, but he performed really well during the combine and the Senior Bowl. I think if I'm here, I'm just going to take the best player available. Let's go Kalavon Chasen from LSU.
Right. Moving on to the Raiders, who also have, in fact, it's a run on teams with a second pick. Dolphins, Raiders, and Jaguars, all teams with their second pick in the first round. The Raiders earlier going wide receiver, taking CeeDee Lamb. Can I offer up the possibility, I'm not going to do it, that even going wide receiver at 12 doesn't take wide receiver off the board at 19?
It's interesting.
I mean,
I'm not sure. I don't think they would do that.
okay. I mean, I'm not going that route. I don't think it makes the most sense. I think it's probably a defensive pick here with a lot of flexibility in what route it goes. I'm going to go Kenneth Murray, the inside linebacker for Oklahoma.
Yeah, I like that.
Probably the top-ranked inside linebacker in this draft, and I do think the Raiders and John Gruden, while CeeDee Lamb feels like a traditional Raiders pick, I think Kenneth Murray feels like a traditional John Gruden pick.
Sure.
Moving on, the Jaguars with their second pick, they took Derek Brown earlier, the defensive tackle out of Auburn.
Yeah. So the Jaguars could go a couple different directions. Henry Ruggs is still on the, which is surprising. I could see really outside of DJ Chark, they have D.D. Westbrook. That's about the only two receivers I can name on that team. They could do an edge rusher here. They could do a corner and take Trayvon Diggs. If I'm the Jaguars, I think best player available. I'm going to go Henry Ruggs.
All right, Henry Ruggs to the Jaguars. We've probably been a little... we've had a lot of back-to-back of the same positions, but I just don't see any way the Eagles go anywhere but wide receiver in the first in this draft. Talk about being able to name their wide receivers. Name the wide receivers on this roster who didn't also play for Andy Reid.
They drafted the kid out of Stanford in the second round last year. I've been trying to get him in my fantasy in our dynasty league for like 2 years now. I can't think of his name. I'm really bad at names today. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, Deshaun Jackson is there, but I mean, can't stay on
and
the
they're
field.
trying to trade Alshon Jeffrey. So
again, guy who
I really
can't
don't
stay
know.
on the field. So I would have liked Henry Ruggs here for the Eagles, but I'm not too worried about the fact that he's not there.
Sure.
They're a speed receiver kind of team, no doubt. They're speed offense. I don't know. This wide receiver class is so deep. There's so many options here. Maybe a reach, but definitely a small speedster. I'm going to take Jalen Reagor, wide receiver out of TCU, 5'11", 206. Replace what I think Nelson Aguilar brought to the table as a run after the catch kind of guy.
Yeah, was supposed to.
I could see them going all sorts of routes at wide receiver, but I do think that at 21 the Eagles are almost definitely going receiver. 22 Go ahead.
Might I say the Eagles performed one of my favorite draft moves last year. I thought it was hilarious. I almost rolled off my couch. the Texans needed a left tackle so badly. I mean, we all knew before they made the trade with the Dolphins, they were desperate for a left tackle. Deshaun Watson was getting crushed. And one left tackle left, Andre Dillard from Washington State. He was the only one left with the first round grade by a mile. And the Texans, there was a team before the Texans, and the Eagles traded up to the pick right before the Texans and took Dillard. And then the Texans reached on a left tackle that was supposed to go in like the third round. It was hilarious. But anyways, that's only for nerds, I guess. 22 Vikings. This is the pick they got from the Bills for the Stephon Diggs trade. Yeah, we've got. They could use a corner. They could use a receiver. Really, Adam Thielen and I don't know who else is playing receiver on that team. They could use an edge rusher. Everson Griffin's gone. With wide receiver being so deep, and with them having a pick a little bit later on at 25, I think they're going to try to jump the Patriots for an edge rusher here. So I'm going to go with, I still don't know how to pronounce his name, Yetur Gross-Matos from Penn State.
There's just too much pick stealing at this point, Bryan. Are you looking at my draft?
I know, I'm
that was
sorry.
my hope, was to go there with the Patriots. Oh, boy, you just made things really difficult. Because I'm now at the point where I have to, like, research for each pick while you talk. I do think quarterback is in play, but I also don't think Justin Herbert's going in the top 6.
Fair.
I don't know that I want to go Jordan Love.
Yeah.
I'm struggling here.
Isn't this weird, though, that we're looking at the Patriots, and they literally have needs all the way across the board?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean...
That's crazy.
What isn't in play with the Patriots' first pick?
Running back.
Wasn't Sony Michel a first-round pick, or was he a second? He was high. I think he might have been a second.
He was high.
This is the hardest pick of the draft.
And then they drafted for sure. They drafted Damian Harris in the third round last year as well.
All right, let's take a position the Patriots have been traditionally strong. I'm going to take Xavier McKinney, the safety out of Alabama. To some extent, it's a shot in the dark. He's a complete safety. He's going to be a run support guy. I don't love it. I don't love anything for them here.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Belichick is going to trade down to the second round anyways.
You think?
That's just the classic Belichick move.
I find myself wondering if Herbert slips past 6, because that's where you have him going, and understandable. If he slips past 6, I don't know that there's a clear spot on the board for him. Maybe the Jaguars. I wonder if the Patriots actually try to move up and get him. I hate him, so I mean, I guess given that, you wouldn't think so. But I am not. Most people think he's pretty clear cut the third best quarterback in this draft class, right? We've seen his coming into the year, there was thought he could be a top 5 type of pick kind of guy. So if he were to fall, I could see the Patriots taking a shot at it. Some people have them taking Jordan Love for sure. I think Jordan Love would be the easy way to go, but yeah, no, I'm taking Xavier McKinney, the safety out of Alabama.
I don't see Jared Love. I really don't. I think this is a good pick. Versatile safety. Patriots love those types of guys.
All right, Saints at 24.
Yeah, I feel like the Saints, one of, if not the most complete roster overall. They could go a number of different positions just for depth purposes. Looking at the Saints, they run some couple different defensive fronts. I'm gonna go with Patrick Queen, the linebacker from LSU.
I do have linebacker as the Saints' biggest need.
Yeah.
Vikings back on the board. They took. I'm sorry. Took.
Yeah, they're.
I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. You're good.
You were breaking up there. Who were they starting?
Oh, okay.
Bryan, have I lost you?
Go ahead. Just go with the Vikings pick.
Okay,
It wasn't
okay.
important.
Let me reset the last
Can
few
you
picks while
can you hear me?
hopefully Bryan tries
There
to
we go.
reset here. Um, at 20, that the Jaguars took Henry Ruggs. At 21, the Eagles took Jalen Rieger. Vikings took Yetur Gross-Matos. Patriots Xavier McQuinney. Saints Patrick Queen. And at 25, we have the Vikings' second pick, so they've already taken a defensive end. Bryan, correct me if I'm wrong. You've been bringing up for a while now quarterback Trevon Diggs, right?
Yes.
Cornerback is definitely a place the Vikings could look to improve. It's again a franchise I think of who likes to focus on the defense, adding two high end defensive players. I think that's the route I'm going to go. Trevon Diggs, the cornerback out of Alabama. I do think wide
Yeah, I
receiver
like
is
that.
in play.
Sure.
I almost didn't consider it enough. And there's so many, again, still so many wide receivers who could go here.
I mean, they could go Justin Jefferson.
But I am going to go with Trevon Diggs out of Alabama. That brings up the Dolphins with their third pick. I'm sorry, Bryan, only to make it more complicated on you. They've taken Tua and Chasen. So you've got a quarterback and an edge rusher.
Yeah. So this is the pick from the Texans. They got from the Laramie Tunsil. That's his name. I mean, it would come. Um. So that being said, once again, they could go a number of different positions in here. Um. I could see maybe Grant Delpit. Um. The Dolphins might even decide to take one of the first running backs off the board here.
There's
DeAndre
value.
Swift would be
There is
nice.
value at running back right now for sure.
Yeah. Um. Overall, I think they're going to put a premium on left tackle. And the only one really left worth taking here is Josh Jones out of Houston. I'm looking and the boards here. I think the next tackle available is Ezra Cleveland from Boise State. So I think they're going to go that direction. So let's do that.
I'm sorry, who are we taking at 26?
Josh Jones, the left tackle out of Houston.
All right, Seahawks picking here at 27. The Seahawks were one of the worst pass rushing teams in the league last year, and Jadeveon Clowney is still on the board. What's tough is the edge rusher type guys available right now are not particularly special. Zach Braun, out of Wisconsin is probably the best edge player available, more of a run stopper.
Yeah. He's definitely more of a linebacker, 3-4 linebacker.
They play a 3-4 in Seattle primarily, don't they?
I thought they ran more of a 4-3.
I don't know. They might be more of a hybrid defense. I thought they ran some.
Shows how much shows the experts that.
Well, as you get,
we are.
no, I mean, Bryan, tell me if I'm wrong. It's starting to get a lot more difficult as we get deeper and deeper in this.
Absolutely.
Terrell Lewis out of Alabama may be an option as a pass rusher. It's kind of a reach, but I think as you get late in the first, it's more of an option. Especially like a team like Seattle where you're expecting to, your first round draft pick needs to come in and make a difference on day one.
Sure. And I've found that Pete Carroll, his picks are always the hardest to guess. I mean, Rashawn Penny in the first round, no one saw.
I think
that
I might go that route. I did wonder a little bit about a running back, but I think they're pretty sold on Chris Carson.
I think
let's
so,
do
too.
that. Let's go. This is my third straight Alabama pick, I believe. Terrell Lewis, the edge rusher.
I like that a lot.
Out of Alabama.
Yeah. I could definitely see Pete Carroll reaching for a need like that.
Ravens up next at 28. We have a lot of Ravens fan friends, and by a lot I mean like 1.5. So no pressure on your end. Sorry, by the way. This is. I just realized we're 50 minutes deep, longer than I anticipated.
Wow.
But yeah, so no.
Well, you know what?
I'm sure you're very busy today.
Luckily, I was gonna say, luckily my schedule is free till like the middle of May. So
right. So at 28, what do you got the Ravens doing?
So the Ravens really need linebacking help. They need to replace C.J. Mosley. They just lost Marshall Yanda to free agency. I could see them going with like a Cesar Ruiz here. They could use another receiver to help out Lamar Jackson. They drafted Hollywood Brown last year. They have Willie Snead. I don't know who else at receiver. So. Yeah, I think Kenneth Murray, perfect pick here, but
I was like, I'm pretty sure I took him somewhere
a little while ago. Yeah, like if you're a Ravens fan, just hold your breath that Kenneth Murray is there because I think he would be perfect in this defense. All right, Fulton's gone, Murray's gone. Maybe a Justin Jefferson.
I'm quite nervous you're going to do what I want with my next pick.
I could see Zach Bond going here. Zach Bond is the typical like Ravens player too. But he's not necessarily a middle linebacker.
Doesn't this draft more than for me recent history? It feels like you get into spots where if you really need a certain type of player, like there's places where you don't see a true defensive end for quite a long time.
Sure.
Probably at defensive end more than anywhere in the first round.
Yeah.
After you get through the first 4 or 5 offensive tackles, there's really nothing there.
Right.
I mean, lots of wide receivers.
Yep. A lot of corners too.
Yeah, even some rush linebackers, but the true defensive ends aren't really there in the top of the draft.
Right. Yeah, I'm gonna go with Zach Bond here for the Ravens.
Okay.
Good edge rusher guy. It's a typical Ravens pick.
So I'm about to answer the question at 29 of will a running back go in the first round?
Wow.
Derrick Henry is franchise tagged. You cannot continue long-term to pay a running back the way that Derrick Henry is going to get paid. I think the Titans recognize that, and I think that is why he is not he's not under a long-term contract. DeAndre Swift, one of the highest value players left on the board. And the cool thing about DeAndre Swift, if you're a Titans fan, you know they're going to continue to run the ball. That's how things work for them. There's nothing wrong with mixing in a second running back in DeAndre Swift day one. He is much like Derrick, obviously not as big, but much like Derrick Henry, capable of doing it all. He can be your inside runner, outside runner. I think DeAndre Swift, actually, as much as I don't endorse taking running backs in the first round, given the way the Seahawks play, I think it actually makes a lot of sense. Only because it's such a value pick.
Okay.
If he was gone, I would not have gone wide receiver. I'm sorry, running back.
That's interesting. Running back, yeah. Okay, cool.
Packers on the board at 30.
I love the way that the Packers do business as much as I hate them.
You're not allowed to say that.
I know.
Scrub the whole podcast. I'm going to have to restart.
Okay.
I don't know how to edit video. But I forgot to warn you, you're not allowed to say anything positive about the Packers, so we're going to have to delete the whole video and restart the mock draft.
I hate them so much. It's just obnoxious how good they are. So the Packers could use definitely a tight end, but you're not going to draft a tight end here unless you're Bob Quinn. You need another receiver. I think they're Lazard guy. The
big cheese, Geronimo Allison is now Detroit Lion.
That's right, Geronimo Allison. And MVS has kind of been disappointing. He was supposed to pick up last year. I drafted him, I think, in every fantasy league, and he sucked. They've gone defense the last couple of years, if my memory serves me correctly. But I'm going to go with Justin Jefferson. I think that's the biggest value here. And I know there's been talk about, possibly Jordan Love going to the Packers.
That's such an interesting thought.
I think that if they did that. Yeah, I think if that happened, Aaron Rodgers' mind would just explode.
Could you imagine that? Though
I think
he did that. He was sitting behind an all-time great.
it's yeah. I think if they did that, there'd be major problems in that locker
Well,
room.
and they're just.
I
It's hard to do that when you were that close last year.
Sure. Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think if you give Aaron Rodgers more weapons, I think they have a real shot at winning it.
All right, I said it when I took the 49ers' first pick, which was Mekhi Becton, the offensive lineman, supposed to take Joe Staley's spot in the near future, that I would go wide receiver at 31. The question is just a matter of which wide receiver. And I've also told you I think that the 49ers are a good organization. So I'm going to take the wide receiver that I actually like most left on the board. One of many guys in the draft whose name I don't know how to say. The wide receiver out of Colorado, Chenault Jr., 6'1", 230, sure-handed guy.
Okay.
I think he's the best wide receiver left on the board, and I definitely think the 49ers need to add one at some point. And they don't have, again, the 49ers don't have a pick in the second, third, or fourth round. Where the most value is at wide receiver. So that's why I haven't taken one at 31. Maybe it's not this guy, but they will take one at 31.
Yeah, I think so too. And like I said, I think that the 49ers are a team that's going to want to trade down to pick up extra picks. I have no doubt in my mind they will trade one of those 2 first-round picks and trade down. I liked Brandon Ayuk from, I don't know if I said that right, from Arizona State, little more, but or even Denzel Mims from Baylor. But I agree. I like the wide receiver pick
I think T.
here.
Higgins
They
is
lost
still on the board as well.
Yeah, T. Higgins.
This is, I think, a little bit, not a big reach. I think it's a small reach by most big boards, but Chenault is the guy that I like. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, he's a little bit of a positionless guy too. He could play some running back, and I think they like those guys.
Yeah, for sure. He's coming off an injury, and I think that's why teams are a little weary on him because he didn't have a pro day, which I think is one of the more underrated talking points about this draft. How is that going to affect the guys that didn't perform as well in the combine because they didn't have a pro day to prove themselves? So I think he's definitely a little more of a risk reward type guy. But yeah, he's positionless. You can put him anywhere on the field. He ran a lot of running back at Colorado. So yeah, I like
Bryan,
it.
Close out our mock draft with pick number 32, the defending champion, Super Bowl champion Chiefs.
Boy, the Chiefs are interesting. They for a team that just won the Super Bowl, they have a lot of need. They could use a running back. They really need a corner. They could use some more linebacking depth. They lost Reggie Ragland to our Detroit Lions. They could even they lost Stephen Wisniewski from Penn State. So they could use an interior lineman. So I think Cesar Ruiz is in play here. I think Jonathan Taylor. I think their thought is, let's just roll with the offense, keep it going. This goes against what I would do.
Definitely on the defensive side of the ball, but go ahead and take a running back.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Jonathan Taylor
I had a feeling
here.
that was the route you were about to go.
Yeah.
It feels a little bit like the running back pick for the Titans. It's more of a need for the Chiefs, but it almost feels like drafting a luxury. And that's how I would draft the Titans as well. I'm going to do a quick read over of our mock draft, and Bryan will spend 2 or 3 minutes talking about how we feel about it, and then we'll wrap this segment. So starting from the top. Joe Burrow to the Bengals, Chase Young to the Redskins. Our Lions take Jeff Okudah. As Bryan called them, my Giants take Isaiah Simmons. Dolphins take Tua Tagovailoa. Chargers take Justin Herbert. Panthers Javon Kinlaw. Cardinals Tristan Wirfs. Jaguars Derek Brown. At 10, the Browns take Jedrick Willis. Jerry Jeudy to the Jets. CeeDee Lamb to the Raiders. Mekhi Becton to the 49ers. That's a pick I think we both agree is very much in play to be traded. The Buccaneers take Andrew Thomas, the guard. Broncos take C.J. Henderson. Falcons take Christian Fulton. The Cowboys take AJ Epinesa. Bryan, while trying to draft and keep up this document, I most definitely didn't even attempt to spell Chasen's first name correctly. I don't even know what it was. I'm pretty sure there's a
Clavon.
Yeah, it looks like Clavon
Yeah.
on mine. The Raiders take Kenneth Murray. The Jaguars go back to wide receiver Henry Ruggs. Eagles Jalen Rieger. Vikings Yetur Gross-Matos. Patriots Xavier McKinney. Saints Patrick Queen. The Vikings Trayvon Diggs. Dolphins Josh Jones. Seahawks Terrell Lewis. Ravens Zach Bond. Titans DeAndre Swift. Packers Justin Jefferson. 49ers Chenault, the wide receiver out of Colorado, and the Chiefs wrap it up with Jonathan Taylor. That was a long read through. I probably should just put that in the video description. Ryan, how do you feel about our mock draft?
I like it. I mean, we made it. So,
we made it. We're done. We're through. Bryan will never do another mock draft in his life, and he regrets the idea. Which it was your idea.
I love this. I think it's so interesting, even just to do a mock with someone else. Put yourself in the quote unquote draft room and
where did you start
I think
struggle?
we were feeling even some of the heat when a player we wanted for a specific team was taken.
Yeah, because you have to research on the fly while not making this podcast 7 hours long.
I mean, that's fair. This isn't our job, so we might not know as much about players.
Where did you start to struggle?
But yeah, I like it, and of course, all of this is going to be blown up when trades happen. But it's going to be interesting with this draft, even to see how trades work, with the teams, basically being in their own basements. How are trades going to work? Are there going to be significantly less trades? I don't know.
Bryan, where did you start to struggle in the mock?
My biggest one was 16
funny
with
you
the
say
Falcons.
that, because I'm looking back, and I feel like Broncos was a little tough. Where it really started to get hard for me was 17 with the Cowboys. And from then on, it was tough.
Yeah.
Every pick after that was hard.
Yeah.
So it tells me before next Thursday I need to study the second half of the first round.
Now, just to bring this up, the Lions are picking at 3. We won't go through the first 2 picks, but, they've got some decent players here available.
With what's
Caesar
on the board,
Ruiz.
what stands out to you?
I would be ecstatic if Caesar Ruiz made his way to the Lions pick. There's a couple. Well, we took a corner already, so that's not really in play. We've got some edge rushers still. Curtis Weaver from Boise State, I like him. Josh Uche, I'm not a big of a fan. I'm a huge Michigan guy, but I just don't like Josh Uche. No offense, man.
Yeah, Ruiz probably stands out to me as the pick you'd be hoping for. Should things go this way? Maybe a wide receiver. I think T. Higgins is still on the board, entering the early second round.
T. Higgins, my favorite guy out of who's available. Well, Neville Gallimore, the defensive tackle from Oklahoma. I think we could really use big run stuffing defensive tackle.
Neville Longbottom, but whatever.
And I really like Brandon Ayuk from Arizona State, so I could see them going in that direction as well.
All right, let's wrap it up. It's been a full hour podcast. I haven't done an hour-long podcast since probably college. Bryan, thank you for doing the mock draft with me. Another episode coming out in a few days. We're going to break down our wishes and our expectations for the Lions draft as we close in on finally something happening in the sports world. Kind of exciting. Thanks for watching.
Yeah.
This has been Brendan and Bryan Talk NFL Draft.